everyone, and thank you for coming back to the Round Table Discussion of Mobile Gaming News Network. I am your host, Joe Schmmo. I am joined by N12, Rudra, Ryoko Matcha, and Zekum11. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, guys.
So, as you guys see, we're all back here for another beautiful topic. But before we get into that, let me tell you guys what's going on with our website. We are always in need of writers. If you guys are into Epic 7, Sinnoh Alice, another one, Fate Grand Order, Card Fight Vanguard, Arc Knights, any of that stuff, come on in. We're always welcome to writers. We are self-sufficient. We do it all ourselves. There's no, we aren't, how do I word this, guys? We aren't like a big corporation. We're all homely. We're homely and we're very friendly. That's what I'm trying to go for. So come on by, check out the website, do what you need to do, and if you are interested, come submit an article, or follow and come to the Discord and talk to us. We'll shoot any of your questions. We'll answer them all. Do whatever you need to do. Now, speaking of which, we do have a Patreon. If you guys ever wanted to support us, that is one of the best ways you can do it. For as little as $1 a month, you can help supply the income to help keep the website running, help pay all the writers, and keep ideas and projects such as this flowing. And there's multiple tiers and stuff, but that's one of the best ways that you can, give back to the website. So, all that spiel is done. Does anyone need to introduce? Is there anything that you're working on you want to tell the world about? Anything like that? Because we're all creators in here. Is there anything you want to tell the world about?
Well, if you're playing FGO, and especially on the NA server, the current Summer 2 rerun, I do have a regular-ish series going where I chronicle my experiences with the event. I did this for the Gouda Gouda 3 event, which is where it started, and it's going to go on for every event moving forward. So if you're interested in a blog or something like that, check out the series I put out. They're called the Dead Heat Summer Race Chronicles, and you can find them on our website.
All right.
On another note, on my end, you have the Tales of Christoria that is just released, and in 2 days' time, or even right now, if this gets uploaded at a later point, the new summer event has just started, so be on the lookout for that. I will be putting out some information about that event, and also be on the lookout on the Bubble Babble Twitch, where we will be playing more of Tales of Christoria on there as well.
All right. 12, do you want to add anything?
For anyone who is interested in Genshin Impact, I am streaming that over on Twitch at twitch.tv/N12. And I will hopefully have an article on it soon. That article is taking a lot longer to write than I anticipated.
And Zekum, what about you, my friend?
Nothing much. Just I'm trying to stream each week as I can. Mostly Arc Knights at this point. Eventually going back to console gaming, but I've just been chilling, honestly, with the whole world going to crazy and stuff like that. But aside from that, as usual, should expect an SUMD article in the next several days as we get more info. And yeah, I'm still waiting for Plants vs. Zombies, because we have literally had nothing talked about for over a month now. And I think they've been deep in development for it, so we'll see. I mean, virus and everything, who knows?
So, as you all know, I am a YouTuber, and I do the stream and stuff like them. I write articles. I mostly keep up with, new Nintendo stuff. By the time this comes out, because I am going to try and get it out tonight, there should be some articles coming about the new Shin Megami Tensei, I can never say the name, 5 and 3 Nocturne Remaster that was announced earlier today, which I will have some news on that. But I mostly keep up with news. And for those who are into anime content, I will be having a weekly Spotify podcast coming out. I put up the most recent episode of Joe's Corner from YouTube, so why don't you guys go check that out. Go follow all the links in below. So, moving on to the topic why everyone is here and everyone's listening. we are going to talk about how video games work in villains. So, essentially, the topic is how would you add villain characters as playable characters in mobile games? We're going to kind of split up in a little bit into two parts. The first part is going to be how they throw them in, just cause, or afterthoughts, and so on and so forth. And the second part is going to be a little more in depth with how they actually work them into the story to where they end up being playable characters. Now, who wants to take the torch with this first? Because we're going to start with the first part where they just throw them in.
Well, I think we can first start off saying that you have a good first one is Fire Emblem Heroes in general. That one they just easily just toss in the characters based off of each of the games that they are from, and just go like if that character is based off of a certain theme that they're doing for an event and whatever, they also throw them in with that as well.
Plus, they tend to also do it with in the Gotcha storyline. So, for instance, in the Farm Heroes universe, like I know they went up to like Chapter 3. They haven't done Death yet, but most of the characters up to Story Book 3, they have them as in Gotcha. It may not be easier to get. Like I know the last two, I can't remember the names right now for Book 3. But most of them in Book 3, I think, are in like those special banners, like mythic banners and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, mostly they just throw them in there after the book is over with, and to be able to get them. So for those that are wondering if there's a character in the story you like, just save up your orbs, and eventually they should come out, unless it's death. I don't know what else to say to you.
I know I'm saving up for one of the fairy ones I remember. I can't remember her name exactly. She was like purple and red color, I remember. But she was pretty looking, and I can't wait to get her in my party, that's for sure. That was one game that I remember. Anyone else remember any other ones?
I think the best example of this is Fate Grand Order, actually, because like, how many times has it been like the new Singularity or Lost Bell comes out? Oh, as a heads up, people, there will be story spoilers for a lot of these games coming through. So if you don't want that, you may want to click off. That said, say in the America Singularity in Fate Grand Order, you defeat Cuckoo and Mabe, and then they get unlocked to the gacha for you to roll. And this ends up happening with every event, every Lost Belt. The villain is always summonable.
Yeah, but the thing is like, for example, with the Singularity, that's like a part of a story in FGO. And the thing is like, when you release the villain, I guess like the only time it does work is if they release the villain even before you go into the story or the day of that story is released.
I mean,
Probably.
that's been a thing you can do with the Lost Belts. Like some of the servants even have specific story dialogue reflecting the fact that you haven't met them yet.
Right, like that was like a big thing in Epic of Remnant, excuse me.
See, well, if you think about it, Card Fight also has something like this. So with Card Fight, they have like clan exclusive events per se, but the clans only go to specific characters, and some of them are portrayed as villains, such as right now they have the Sprite Brothers event going on. That's just thrown in, but that's the only time you can get those cards is through that random event that this random person's doing. So in that sense, Card Fight also throws in villains randomly, I guess. But that's as far as I could put into this conversation because they have the events planned, but it's still not storyline wise. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, we need to like include this clan, I guess. So here you go. Here's this event. Beat this guy down a couple times. There you go.
Like, it might be a bit more difficult when it comes to more card game oriented. Like, when you're getting decks from a type of character who is a villain, who uses those cards. I mean, they're just cards technically. They're not a part of that character or anything in a matter of sense, unless like from the show or something like that, they show a connection between that card and that character, I guess.
Mm.
Okay, so going back to what you were saying, so I think it was Muraglis that you're talking about, one of the fairy girls from Fae, And if I'm correct, she came out during when you first see her in the story. So it's kind of like,
Wait, she did?
yeah, she came like when they released her, it was actually for the story. Like that example doesn't really count.
Fudge, I thought
I mean,
no.
if you're talking about the right one, she's
Right.
good. She's for the dreams, and she has a sword. And she
Yeah.
came out like legit on the same day of the updates with the story, and I ended up getting her for
What
free. I was
happens when I
like,
don't keep up? This is what happens when I don't keep up with Fire Emblem. Alrighty. Anyway, but yeah, like that kind of makes sense. Like it's harder with card games and that sort of thing.
The thing I want to bring up is the really interesting way Alice does this. So, as a bit of an explanation, Alice has a gear system, and one of the gear pieces you can equip are called nightmares. Now, these are like little demon things that you summon that have a variety of effects. They're sort of like a cross between a skill and a command seal, if you're going by Fate Grand Order examples. Now, the interesting part about these nightmares is that you can summon them or buy them from event shops, and they're always the enemies you fight. But not in the sense, and they can be the final bosses, but they're also the mob enemies, which I found really interesting. Like, this is something I've only seen Alice do. I mean, given the absolute glut of gacha games out there, I wouldn't be surprised if there are other games that do it, but I've personally only seen Alice doing it. And no explanation is given in the story, well, what little there is, whatsoever as to why you can do this. It's just a thing.
Yeah, in Sinnoh that one of the things I did like was collecting that one nightmare from I think it was the Cinderella event where you get her sister Drusilla as a creature you can summon in the game. Like that was a pretty cool concept idea. Is like put in elements of other characters from their fairy tales and
okay,
put them into equipment and other things.
so going back to that for Alice, in a way, there is for Epic 7. Those like fodders for 1 stars, 2 stars.
Yeah.
Technically, that can be considered
Mhm.
because they are technically mobs in the game, but not all of them can be recruitable. There's just a certain selection. It's mostly the alive ones, like the machines or the humans. It's mostly just the monster in Epic 7.
Like I think there are like one or two characters that are like even like chaotic like minded or something like that in Epic 7 that are also considered recruitable, I think. I'm not fully sure.
Again, really draw a blank. I'd have to search that out.
It has been a while since I've played Epic 7, but even when I could play it, like, I remember that we could summon the main villains, like people like Tenebria and Arbiter Bildred, with no real explanation given as to why we can.
But yeah, especially for the Moonlight versions. I think it's Albert Vildred, which story-wise, he's normal Vildred you can get from the normal gacha. But the Moonlight gacha, which is just a terrible gacha to begin with, they added in Albert Vildred. There's like 2 different versions of Tenebria, which are for both. And just I'm not going to go into depth, but you are correct. They did add some villains as gacha. We'll see if they keep doing it for the second chapter for Strays. We'll see, but they did for some.
All right. Does anyone else have any other good examples? Because I'm surprised I had the one.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, it worked. So since that's the case, I'm pretty sure you guys can talk about this one a lot easier. Is the fact that they actually put them in story-wise. So kind of for those people who don't know what we're trying to get, it's kind of like how Dragon Ball Z puts in a villain. Goku friends them, and then they become part of the party. It's that kind of thinking. So, who wants to take this one off the go?
Oh yeah, spoiler warning. I mean, technically we did, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
just
gonna
make sure.
accept a spoiler warning for Honkai here because I want to talk about this. Because Honkai doesn't, besides the actual Honkai beast, it doesn't really have villains. It has antagonists, and almost every single antagonist in the game is also a protagonist, in some sense. At one point or another in the story, they always switch between protagonist or antagonist, just depending on the story at the time. So, like, for example, right now, in every server besides the Chinese server of Honkai, we are in version 4.0, and we're getting a story right now. The Chinese server is in version 4.1, and they've already gotten the story. And they are, so we know from the version, we're getting Hersher of Thunder May, or Mai, and then, but she is a antagonist version of one of the main three characters, Mai, and she becomes an antagonist in the story that we're getting right now in every other server. And Honkai's always done that, where whenever they introduce the villain playable characters like Hersher, Void, Kiana, Hersher, Thunder Mai, Black Nucleus, Bronya, I'm just trying to think of a lot of them. They're always introduced either in the in the update that they become a villain in the story, or in the update directly following it, and then they stay. You can always get them after that, but when they first introduce them, it's always based on when they come into the story as an antagonist or a villain.
Objection. We've fought Raven multiple times, and there is as a hint that we'll be able to play as her.
Actually,
at least with Durandal, we never saw her in the story ever before we got her as playable. But we fought Raven multiple times.
Wait, okay. First off, Durandal, the very first, when she was introduced into the game in version, I think her A rank was version 3.7 or 3.8, that story was when she was first introduced as an antagonist to Kiana in Arc City. So, there's that. And as for Raven, there is actually a theory right now that in 4.2 she is going to be the A rank Valkyrie, because the 4.1 trailer does not show Durandal or Rita, but that we know based off the Chinese server that is what the 4.1 server, the 4.1 story is going to be. Is going to be Durandal and Rita again. But the trailer for 4.1 actually showcases Raven fighting, in the sense that you would be playing as Raven at some point in the story. And the last time they did that was 4.0 to 4.1 with Hersher Thunder Mai, where in the end of 4.0 you are going to play as Hersher Thunder Mai, that she gets introduced as an actual gacha unit in 4.1. So people are speculating they're going to do the same thing in 4.1 to 4.2 with Raven.
And do you think we'll ever get a playable Kevin? Honkai's broken the no playable.
I want a playable Kevin, but we're never going to get a playable Kevin unless they break the sacred rule of Honkai of you are not allowed to have male characters in the gacha.
I mean, we did get the player character in a post Honkai Odyssey,
but he's not in the gacha.
That's no character in a no character in a post Honkai Odyssey.
Yeah, no, none of them are gacha. But so far in the gacha, they've never had a playable male character, so I don't think they're gonna add a Kevin. If they do, I will be very happy. I want a playable Kevin, but they're probably not going to.
Speaking of, do you know how happy I was that Starlit Astrologos was shop?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so nice.
I know, right? I have basically adopted Teresa as my daughter, so having that suit for free is just yes.
Yeah, no, when I saw that she was shop, and then they announced Hersher Thunder, right after it, I was like, okay, I don't gotta spend any crystals on her. I'm good.
I mean, I don't have crystals to begin with. I never have crystals. I mean, I knew Starlit Astrologos was shop, but I wanted to get her to S rank at least, so I just rolled on that banner, regardless. And it was worth it. I got her to double S, but the shop, and I didn't have enough crystals to fill up the rest, sadly. When you want to get someone to triple S, it gets absurd.
Oh, yeah.
You need 300 fragments.
Oh yeah, no, that's the whole reason I don't have either Hersher Void or Hersher Reason Triple S yet.
I mean, I have both of them at S.
Yeah, same. I have Hersher of Void is almost at SS, and then Hersher of Reason's at just base S.
Alright, moving along. That was great description with the Honkai Impact. I didn't even think of that game at all. That was good. I'm gonna bring up in the Tales aspect-wise, in the Tales of Ray series, you have characters that are from each of the Tales games individually that are actually villains from their games, and sometimes every once in a while they will be put into stories, certain villain characters, and they are put as villain characters. Even some of the heroes are even put as villains as well in the game, sort of like Fire Emblem Heroes does theirs. But there are some instances with the story itself in Tales of Rays. Very recently, they just added the new story to finish up, I think, the third arc, I believe. And in that third arc, you are able to get the villain of the whole game and everything that you've been fighting against this whole time. So it's real cool that that is finally put into it. But you don't get this character until the very end of the story. I'm not fully sure. I believe they teased that we're getting a new arc. But I don't know if what we're doing in that next arc or whatever. Will this villain character now be an ally that we can have along that journey and everything else? So it's kind of weird to have a villain character being given to you in a gacha at the very end of the story. Because then it's just
feel like
like,
that would
now
be
what?
weird. That just sounds weird.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting how it's going to go when they put in the next story, which should be coming up pretty soon, I believe. And it's real cool because now they put into a new sort of system where like you'd have two characters performing a mystic arc together. It's like called double mystic arc or that sort of thing. I'm not sure about the details, but it's real cool that they're now putting in even more mechanics as they go on. Another example I can also bring up is just an entirely new gacha in general called Twisted Wonderland, where in this gacha, you're basically collecting characters based off of Disney villains. Each of these characters are based off of minions or the villains themselves. So, like, for example, the Queen of Hearts. You have one character that's based off of the Queen of Hearts, and then four other characters that are just based off of each of the different types of cards, like heart, spade, diamond, clover, which is quite cool. Um, and in the story itself, there is some of these characters do become like obsessed with power, or they can't control themselves or something like that because of their magic abilities and everything, and they become like a villain type of character. But at the same time, you can collect them as you go. And even in the boss battles, you can even have that same character fight against themselves. So it's real funny with that one. And that is actually a game that's trending quite well in Japan right now. It's not available for global right now, but I have a feeling, knowing Aniplex, probably 2 years from now we'll be getting it in the globally.
Behind.
Well, pretty much anything Aniplex is always 2 years from what we have seen.
So I have a bit of a non-standard example going. So I played this game called Shadowfight 3. I've brought it up before in this podcast. It's basically a pure equipment gacha. Like, there is only one player character you customize, and the gacha is solely for equipment. Now, how do I feel this ties into the whole antagonist thing is because obviously, as you progress through the story, the enemies you fight will have their own unique equipment. And a lot of the time, it's quite possible that you can get this enemy equipment long before you ever face them and fight them. And in a lot of the events, despite no real explanation given why, your goal is often to finish up the event so that you can get whatever piece of armor the enemy of the event is wearing, the armor, weapon, and whatnot. And I feel like this is something that it still ties into the whole theme we have going here, despite not being antagonists per se, but it's for something that can be seen as the antagonist items.
That's interesting with the whole equip system and everything. Like, that's a gacha that's not usually common. Like, people just want a solid character. But seeing equipment in general, that's good.
Well, that's because like Shadowfight 3 as a game, it's like it's not your standard gacha. It might be an equipment gacha, but it's a fighting game first and foremost. And
Okay.
I do have my issues with the monetization of the game, but it's actually really solid. It's one of the best fighting games on mobile. Like it's very close to console level in terms of the strategies and stuff you can pull off. They've done a really good job with it. So the equipment matters because your fighting style changes depending on the weapon you have.
So, does anyone else have anything else they want to throw into this? Throw their hat into the ring, per se?
Okay. I guess I'm going because I think I'm gonna have the bulk of it here. So we're gonna talk about Arknights and we're gonna talk about you. And I'm gonna go with several things like why, what's gonna end up happening. Because we're just gonna go with the characters first, and then I'm gonna explain
Well,
why do I
wait,
think.
yeah, wait. First off, spoiler alerts
Yes,
for Arknights people.
yes. Storyline wise, yes. Um, some of it's speculation of if they're gonna be playable or not, except for one character, which we're gonna go over first. But yes, big spoilers, and there's gonna be a decent amount of speculation. Without further ado, let's go. So, first character we're going to talk about that is playable for the first anniversary. Everyone knows about it. I think it made Arknights even more popular. Is W. She's literally gets shown off, I think, in the prologue and up to like chapter 2, and then she just disappears off the face of the planet, and then side story wise, she comes back and you figure out that she works under Babel, or is a Babel loyalist, which is like the original owner of Rhode Island, and is a double agent. So at this point, like if you at this point, spoilers, obviously, I'm going in depth with these characters, so like that already enough. If you don't want to hear anything dark, I'm serious. Exit out right now or go further into the video. But anyway, the interesting thing is to note how they did that, and I think they kind of did it with another character, and that's the whole speculation. But we'll get to her when we get to her. But yeah, that is how W is a playable character. I think a lot of people were surprised, but with how they did her character, she literally disappeared off the face of the planet, and she's like, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? Okay, just don't mind me." Probably almost got killed by lots of people trying to get in. But anyway, I don't know how the story goes, but that's the general gist. And you can literally search up Reunion Arknights and you get a full list of whoever's dead and not. But anyway, we're gonna go off with the story of who dies. We're gonna go off with who dies first, and then my thoughts on them, and then go on from there. So first one, Full Shatter. Don't think so. He's dead. He's dead. I'm sorry for those. But a lot of people like Misha more than Skull Shatterer. They're both sister and brother. And Misha, there's this interesting theory going around, speculation going around, that she's not dead. Even though they've shown her body, most people joke around that she was knocked out, and some people speculate that she was knocked out. But I'm gonna go with those people that say that she's dead. Hell, if they're like, "Oh, she was knocked out, but we didn't say that in the story," I'll be fine with that too. Be stupidly random, but I'm gonna go with
Ruby, cough.
yeah. But I would not mind it. I wouldn't be too crazy if she's dead. But she does have kind of a major importance in the story, especially when it connects to what's happened beforehand. She is kind of a daughter of a specific someone, and she knows another person, so it wouldn't be too surprising if she's not dead, unlike her brother, or maybe kind of brother. I don't know. I think they technically said it was a brother, or we kind of hinted at. We'll see. Hey, I'm gonna go next in line. And these next two characters, like just because a lot of people like them, I could see them not die. It's kind of done in a way where it's like if they wanted to, they could keep them alive. They haven't confirmed these deaths completely. I mean, for the second one, kinda, but I can go into its like own speculation for that. But we're gonna go with Faust. Literally, this chapter that just released had these two characters die. So Faust is pretty much the bro for Mephisto. And talking about all these characters have their own backstories. I'm not going to go into depth of the backstories. I may, if it pertains of if the importance of having them maybe be an operator in the future. But he pretty much, okay, so why I said that, he pretty much, before he dies, he's like trying to get Mephisto, which is like everyone hates him. But he's trying to get him to not fight, and of course he dies. Faust dies. But the main reason why I think he's going to be maybe playable, and I think a lot of people actually want to give him hugs and don't want him to die, is that they never showed his body. That's the interesting thing to note. Is while they shown the body for Skull Shatterer, I mean, you literally see him being impaled by magic. Or Amisha, which you just see her body lumped over. We don't know if she's dead or not. They didn't really really show completely. But for Faust, they only showed blood and a crossbow. They quote unquote hinted that they might be dead, but there might be that possibility that he's not. Now, one is speculation. You could argue he's dead, and you could argue he's not dead. They could do something. Anyway, Frost Nova. I for those that have played, like if you know about W, you probably know about Frost Nova and how literally everyone loves her to death. She actually joined Rhode Island before she dies, and that's the interesting thing I want to point out first in the story, that she actually does join, but died like literally seconds afterward. And the interesting thing about this game is there's orbithy, which is a disease, and that's what she dies from. But the interesting thing about Frost Nova is she controls ice. Like, she literally frees people to death. In my speculation, and I said this before on Discord when I was talking to other people, especially with Dead, is that you could argue that over time, like they could either put her in a capsule, but like in the beginning of the game, the rescued doctor that was in a capsule, they could do something like that, or they could have her in like a frozen coma. And I know in the story, I know it's like chapter 7 in side stories, I think, maybe just side stories, that there is a character that might be able to solve orpathy issues, and that could tie in with Frost Nova. That's speculation. Aside from the character, everything else from her saving Frost Nova is speculation. And then the last one that died in the story, which is chapter 7, I don't know much about. I mean, yes, chapter 7's not out, but I do know that this character dead, and I don't care too much. But it's Patriot, and he's pretty much works with Frost Nova, especially when they were raiding Longman. But he dies. Don't know how. I'm not gonna go into too depth because we have to wait until the chapter comes out. Aside from him, everyone else is alive. Crown Slayer and Tulala and Misieto. I joke around with Misieto. Like, if they ever brought him in, they would have to Negan him. So if you guys don't know who Negan is from The Walking Dead, he's one of those. He ends up becoming the main villain at chapter 6. So spoilers for that too. But he ends up kind of being like this anti-hero. Because they quote unquote killed him, but they decided to save him. And they pretty much put him in prison. And pretty much one of the children helped him become normal again because he was actually a teacher. So a PE teacher to be exactly. So he ends up being good and tries to protect the kid. So they could do something like that with him. It would make sense if Foss was still alive, and him slowly bring him back to being a normal person. That's just speculation on me and how they could do Miss Yeto. Talulu, Chatudula, at this point, who knows? And story hints that she's actually a half sister to one of the main characters in Rhode Island, which is technically Lugman, but joins Rhode Island, which is Shin. So who knows? We don't have much info on her to begin with, so I can't really go into depth of how they do her. If they do her, it'd be kind of nice, but I don't expect her to live. Who knows? There's talks and hints that she might have a mental illness. Who knows? Who knows? But going back to what I said about W, Crown Stuff, it kind of happened to her in Chapter 6. It was kind of hinted at earlier that one of the main characters calls it in red, goes to some random place, and they pretty much stop Crown Slayer. And I'm not gonna go into depth of what happens, but pretty much they captured her. She wanted to kill them. She let her go, reasoning because of backstory that she realized that her actions have consequences. The only reason why Crown Slayer is in Reunion is because of How's It and her actions to save the Doctor. And so she pretty much has disappeared. After Chapter 6, she just disappeared. Same thing for Side Story. Maybe from events or side events, you can still face her, especially since there's some events in the game that you could face her. Like, I think it's like if you want to upgrade units, it's like I think E to the guard in Vanguard, maybe. you faced her in that one. But storyline wise, she's kind of disappeared on the face of the planet like W. So that could be the thing. Like she could be playable in the future. Who knows? That's just speculation. We haven't really seen her after that point. It's just something to note. And when it comes to the second anniversary, my thoughts of who could be playable. Um, Honestly, it's either Frost Nova, Frost, or Crown Slayer at this point. I could actually see Crown Slayer. The biggest surprise would be someone like Miss Fieto, but I don't think he will. I think the biggest surprise, though, would be Crown Slayer. And I think it would make the most sense due to what they did with W. They could do the same thing. Like, by the time the second anniversary comes out, she could be, like, it'd be several chapters after that point. So it might be chapter 8 or chapter 9. Anyway, 8 minutes left. Okay, sorry. Anyway, there is 3 more characters, but they're side characters, and we don't know much about it. We really don't know much about them. Big Bob, which is the famous Big B. If you see the commercial of Arknights, you probably already know. Murdoch, which I guess he is, because literally these 3 characters, I mean, especially Murdoch and another character which is Nine, kind of solidified as leaders from literally the latest event that came out several weeks ago. And a lot of people didn't think much about Murdoch. I didn't really think about him. I know I played because it's actually the first event that we actually know Big Bob and Murdoch, but they seem to be only side characters. They have no interaction in the main story yet, so who knows about those 2? But there's another one. The interesting thing is she was already defected. Someone already captured this person. We don't even know the gender. We don't know much info. I think it's one of those like kind of slightly talks about, but not gone into info yet. And they might do a side story about that, which this character is supposedly named Nine. So who knows? There's literally not much of any info on her. I think she's literally just like, oh, there's this one character that kind of got arrested, and that's about it. And I do believe she might actually, or he, who knows, may end up getting an actual event tied around them. So if you guys don't know, around probably 6 to 7 months from now, we'll probably get some info or some mention of this character. But until then, that's about it. I really don't much about that one character, so that's pretty much it. One thing I wanted to go before I end it off is there's the argument of if Reunion works with Rhode Island, who would be the new villain? I talked about this in the article. There's 2 thought processes of how this could work. It could either be Run. It'd be like some kind of, they just go off the charts of the story, and it's a different parallel universe, which I talked about when I first thought of this idea for you guys, which was like Maya being evil, or maybe the story changes that Maya becomes evil. Who knows? Speculation. Who could happen? Who knows? And then the second one would be another group that pretty much due to the actions of Union, pretty much is going after Infected, kind of worsening the racism and what would be the best word as them? Discrimination or oppression against Infected. It would worsen that, and they would try to go after Infected and try to kill them. And I think that would be a big plot twist that no one would see coming. And I kind of like made up a name for them, but I could easily see that happen, where Reunion might have to join Rhode Island to stop this mass murder of really all sorts of people, just to do sort of some infection. And that's about it. I am done for now. For Reunion.
So,
what do you guys thought?
That was very informative, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, quite
Yeah, because the
informative.
thing was, I really
I
wanted to
felt
talk
like I went through the whole story of Arknights.
yes, I really wanted to talk about it, and it's like it's so important because it's a really good like it makes you wonder what they're going to do, and there's so many opportunities. Like I always think and always say to some people is that if they don't add them as 6 stars, it's wasted opportunity. Especially since some of these characters can work as 6 stars because we don't have those type of characters as 6 stars. For instance, we don't have a 6-star healer that heals 3 units. That would technically be Mesfieto. We don't really have a long-range sniper. That would be Foss. We have a 4-star one, but we don't have a 6-star one. So there's also other ways, and kind of makes sense for them to become operators if they did. So something like that. Like that's another reason, or another possibility of why they would do that.
Like that's another interesting thing in general with like the 6-star idea of it. Like even in other gotchas like SSRs or highest ranking type of rate, is that what we see for all the villains, or do we ever see like a rare or even a 3-star unit that's a villain?
My thought process, if they do multiple at once, like let's say they bring Mesfieto, like Faust could be a 5-star, as he magically survives. Somehow one of the Rhode Islands operatives finds him, saves him, and he somehow talks Mesfieto to joining them. That could be something that could happen. You don't know.
So,
Even in other games too, same thing. Go ahead, Joe.
no, I was about to make a joke. I was about to say, so remember, class, remember everything we talked about today. It's going to be on your test at the end of the week. Now, what we're going to talk... Just...
Right.
It's all gonna be reunion, okay?
Make sure you read up on all the chapters of Arknights, everyone.
But it was very informative, sir. I really do appreciate all the info. Because I don't play it, but I really do appreciate learning backstory and stuff. So, it's appreciative.
Yeah, like all these characters do have big tragic backstories. Even Mesfieto, even though he's like super crazy, there's a reason for that. Abusive father. Some real world coincidences of fatherless children becoming really bad people. There's actually
like
test
this,
studies for that.
This even works like for games, an example like Sinnoh Alice as well as Twisted Wonderlands, where like even the characters, even though they're not villain characters, they have like a very tragic type of story going on with each of the characters as well, and they are characters you can collect with a very dark story going on.
And like there's so much I could go into depth, especially with Tallulah, because they originally were peaceful. But then 3 years ago, something happened, the leader broke, and yeah, we have Arknights. So there's more that I could go into depth. I think the best comment to explain this is they have a noble cause, but bad planning and terrible execution.
This makes a good villain group because Hawkeye has the same thing with all of its antagonist groups. Is every group has the same goal, but the methods are different.
Yeah, that's why I mean that makes them lovable too. It's like, come on, guys, come on. What's the company's name? Is I can't remember. Sorry, bring them in, please. I mean, for me, I'm a Lupo fan club leader. I like my Lupos. I like my Crown Slayer. Just bring her in for me, please. Anyway.
So with that,
I'm deaf now.
with that beautiful note, unfortunately today, guys, we gotta start getting near the end. Are there any final notes that you guys want to pass on to the lovely audience?
Oh, I did have an entire spiel about another Eden planned, but we don't have time for it.
So if
So,
you can,
play another Eden, I guess.
So no, Rujo, I'll give you. Let me see. We'll give you. Can you do one in 5 minutes?
I'll try.
Go for it.
Right. So, Another Eden is a game I really, really love for introducing villains to the gacha in a very way. It's a very story-heavy game, so if any of you among the audience have played Chrono Trigger, you will love Another Eden. Because Another Eden, the music and the main story are done by the same people who did it for Chrono Trigger. And it's a time travel story, but that quality is there from someone who knows what he's doing. So again, going into spoilers, in part one of the main story, you fight an enemy called the Beast King. He is one of the major antagonists. You fight him a couple times. And then in part two, you get to summon him as a unit. Now, interestingly, he is not in the gacha. He's given to you as a party member if and only if you get to that point in the story. Same thing happens to a lot of the other characters you fight as enemies. There's Cyrus, a frog samurai. He's your enemy at first, you fight him and beat him, and then he joins your team, much like a standard JRPG. And even the enemy characters that are added into the gacha, you only there's a justification given as to why they wind up joining with you. Like you've beaten them in the story and they respect you, or they want a chance to challenge you again, or something of the sort. And I really feel that's a good thing. Now, I cannot actually get into the details of Another Eden's story because it's a full-fledged JRPG. We would be here for hours if I tried to do that. However, I do like that they bother giving these characters properly fleshed out reasons as to why they join your cause, and in a lot of cases, they're just added to your party like they would in a standard JRPG. You don't even have to roll for them. So yeah, play Another Eden.
You
That
got
should just be the takeaway. Just play all these games. You'll get it.
play
Play 'em.
every
Play 'em,
single game
enjoy 'em.
mentioned, everyone. I don't care if you don't have the time, but you gotta quit your job. You gotta play these games. I don't care what you gotta do, okay? But
Like, in all honesty, coming from a bunch of us who do a website and write excellent articles on the games that you guys play, you gotta know that we think of players first and foremost, and I will say we all have a good, solid opinion on some games, and I would say for sure, give it a try.
for sure, anything that anyone's brought up, just give it a try. Because I mean, think about it. Everyone in here, if they played a game, on average, this is gonna lead towards the end. On average, the games you mentioned, how long have you played? Like hour-wise, if you had to take a guess.
Every single day. Every single day.
Day.
The issue though
Yeah,
is the
pretty
stamina.
much.
Like each mobile game has its own issues. Arknights has a stamina and farming issue. Aside from that, everything else is excellent. Maybe the story's medium, side story, fucking excellent, amazing. But yeah, aside from the issues of stamina, every single day.
I mean, I think the only issues with my games is that they're only in JP.
Yeah, no, I can feel that.
So hopefully maybe one of them.
I play the Princess Connect gacha, and that thing's only a JP, and I don't understand like half of it.
I feel so bad because like the amount of data in order to download that game takes up my whole phone, and I already have like 13 games on my phone.
Let me open up my settings and see how many games are now.
That is the perfect opportunity to get a computer and emulate it.
No,
Literally.
yeah, pretty much.
So another takeaway from this, everyone: go get a computer. Go out and buy a laptop and work from there. Specifically a gaming laptop. So I want you to go get some Alienware, or or build your own desktop, because that's what you're gonna need to comprehend all the processing power done by all this. But as you can tell, all of us put hours and time into it. For me, like I put hours into research and deciding what article I want to do, so on and so forth. I play Vanguard daily. I played Fate Grand Order since the day it came out for like a year, 2 years, or however long it's been at this point. So yeah, like everyone here has put a lot of time and effort into their thoughts and how they wanted to answer tonight. So if you guys have any ideas or want to add on to this discussion, go ahead in the comments down below. Give us your opinion. Give us your ideas. And why don't you come stop by the Discord, because we can talk easier that way. Everyone can talk to you a lot easier. And same for the people on this podcast. They can talk to you a lot easier that way instead of through the comments. But any final remarks from everyone before we sign off for tonight?
And if you also join, you get to see my lovely PNG of Crown Slayer and me that I actually changed a few weeks ago because of my love of Crown Slayer. Anyway, that's your other prize. You see my lovely PNG. Okay, good.
I'll spend hundreds of dollars on PNGs. Let's not lie.
Yeah, we all spent hundreds of dollars. So I guess on that small depressing note, we will see you guys later.